We gotta be past 2 minutes, Steve. Okay. Remind them to vote.
All right.
Get over it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, let's get started with our speaking portion of the meeting. Speaker number one today. All right, let's get started for real this time with our speaking portion of the meeting. Speaker number one today, ATM Ty Patton, has stepped in to fill in for Carson Schaefer as our prayers go out to Carson and his family during this time when they fight off the COVID virus. Ty hopes each of us will walk away with an important life lesson from one of his own many faux pas. With a speech entitled, "Let Him Know, Tell Him Now," help me welcome ATM Ty Patton to the lectern.
How many of you have unintentionally hurt someone that is near and dear to your heart? I mean, really hurt them. Not physically, but emotionally. And emotionally leaves no visible scars. So we don't see the hurt that we've inflicted on others. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, members at the head table, I have, and the misunderstanding was a monumental magnitude that I can't even to this day really contemplate the fullness of it. But to take you to my faux pas, I need to go back a number of years before some of you were even born. I'm talking about 38 years ago. You see, my daughter, who is now 49, Tara was just 4 years old when her mom and I got a divorce. We lived in Ohio, and like so many other divorces, the bickering, the arguing, the fighting, the turmoil continued. And so I had the sage wisdom of an attorney who had helped me, who said, you know, you need to put some space between you. So that's when I decided to move to Central Florida, 1,000 miles away, in order to put that space there. Now, moving to Central Florida, I had no helpful connections here. I had no education, college education that is. And I had no transferable skills. So many of the jobs that I had, and at one time I had 4 at one time, they were all entry level in order to make a living. I was a full-time Charles Chips home delivery driver. At the same time, I was also working at Kmart, and I had nothing to do with their demise, by the way. I was working the sporting goods there. Also, I was working from midnight until whenever the job was done at a local trucking loading dock. And in addition to that, I was trying to get my own real estate sign installation business going. You've seen it, the big 4x4 signposts that sit in people's front yards. And anyone that's been self-employed can attest to the fact that there's just never enough cash flow to go around. So I was putting in all these hours, and about 2 years after I came here, my daughter and I were having a phone conversation, and she asked me about coming to live with me here in Central Florida. Of course, I was flattered, but at the same time, I didn't even know where my next meal was coming from. And to take on the responsibility of feeding her when I knew that she was already in a safe, secure situation, I just couldn't do. And so I explained it to her, because I was even at that time a Toastmaster and a master of spoken word. And so through a very eloquent explanation of why financially it was just not going to work, that was the end of the topic. And I thought that everything was okay. So then years passed. 5 years ago, I paid for her to come down here. We had the first one-on-one time as adults in our lifetime. A week together. Her children stayed up in Ohio. We went out, we did the zip line. Oh, that's exciting if you haven't done it. We did the iFly. That's where they replicate indoor skydiving. That was fun. We also did the little airboat. And the operator took us to a little secluded area where there just happened to be a mad mama gator protecting her nest. It was exciting. And we talked. And we talked. And we talked some more, sometimes until 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was during one of those sessions that she shared with me that when she was 6 years old, and I had explained quite thoroughly all the financial repercussions why I could not have her come live with me, what she heard was that I did not love her and I did not want her. Put yourself in that position that she was in. For 38 years, she thought her dad did not love her, did not want her. But I can tell you, I was crushed. This Marine bawled like a baby. And it still affects me today because I love that girl and she is the apple of my eye. Today, I text and call almost every day because it's important to me that she understands that she is loved like nobody else. So, fellow Toastmasters, if I can leave you with one message from my own life faux pas, if there is any possibility that someone that you love, someone that you care for, just might have a misunderstanding and not know how much you love them, the moment you walk out that door, if you have to do it right now, get in touch with them. Make a visit to them. Wrap your arms around them and let them know with all your love and all your heart that you love them and you will never not love them. You gotta let them know, and you gotta let them know now. Because as hard-hearted as this might sound, the reality is none of us is promised tomorrow. So let them know now while you have that opportunity. Fellow Toastmasters.
Our next speaker, speaker number 2, will be giving a speech about that wonderful feeling at the start of the week. Please help me welcome to the lectern Toastmaster Garen Sprague, giving his speech entitled Monday Blues.
Thump. That was the sound outside the window as the rope tightened and half the man's body swung into the sliding board. It was Monday morning just a few weeks ago, and my mother-in-law, she jumps up, runs outside, and the neighbors are pointing to the wall. She turns around and looks, and there is the owner of the house hanging from a rope. She runs around and she grabs his legs, and she screams to people to cut the rope. My nephew, who's 18, just starting college to be a doctor, comes outside, sees men, grown men, looking, but frozen in their space. Other people are pulling out their phones. My nephew runs around, goes upstairs, begins to cut the rope. to lower the man down. This man helped my sister-in-law build her house. He did much of the work for free. He was a prominent man in the community, a business owner, and everyone wondered, like, why? His son comes out, who's the age of my nephew. His wife comes out, and they're just frozen as this man hangs. As they lower his body to the ground, my nephew, again, 18 years old, begins to perform CPR. Everyone else is around. My mother-in-law, she's trying her best. Finally, the ambulance comes, and the man dies. My children, who I'm about to pick up tomorrow from that same island in the Caribbean, were right there in the house. Thankfully, they were on their tablets. Because how would I speak to them about what transpired? We later found out that this gentleman had lost several large contracts. His business was going under. He was having some problems at home. And for whatever reason, he chose to commit suicide. So many of us are dealing with fear, disappointment, the Monday blues, what's going to happen tomorrow, the anxiety of it all. We're worrying, we're waking up late at night, we're wondering if people are going to accept us, are people going to love us, are we going to be embarrassed? We're worriers. We're worried about things that haven't even occurred yet. I found myself worrying quite a bit. Several weeks ago, Alex said, "Garen, you're getting lean." That's not by choice. I've been worrying. I look at Bonnie's videos with her working out, and I'm like, I want to get back into the gym. I've only spent 6 times in the gym for the whole year of 2021. I've been worrying. And I'm not a worrier. I'm going to tell you why. So August 9th, which is another Monday, is the date that one of my largest clients is about to open up. And with all that's happening in the economy, not having employees, finding quality people, the whole nine, I have been worrying since March. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want to be embarrassed. I want to support people. I'm thinking about my employees. I'm thinking about my clients. I'm worrying. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Furthermore, I have to fire one of my main managers. Some stuff that he was doing. And I feared making the decision because I know that I would have to go back out into the field until we figured this out. So every night as I lay next to my wife, I'm thinking, like, I don't want to go back out into the field. I want to lay here. And I feared making the decision. I finally told my wife, I miss you. She's like, what do you mean? I'm going to make the decision tomorrow. And as I made that decision, late March, I was flung back into the field, working alongside my team, which isn't a bad thing. I just missed my wife. And I've been working ever since. So working in the office, working in the field, losing weight, Barney. I can't get to the gym, dog. She said she got me. I said I can't do this anymore. So I decided to go to the Bible. Now, I read the Bible on a regular basis, but I decided to go to the Bible looking for answers dealing with fear and worry and anxiety. And I've had some really cool devotions that I've read. And I stumbled onto this text in Romans. Between Romans 5 through Romans 8, 5 through 8. And it says that when one focuses on self, they don't focus on God. And if they're self-absorbed, they miss out on what God is doing every single day in their lives. And God doesn't like to be ignored. I read it in the Message version, and like I read it again, and I read it again, and it's like God doesn't like to be ignored for all the things that he's doing on a daily basis. Stumble onto another text, and I see squirrels outside, and I see birds outside, and every single day they wake up, and somehow there's food for them. I'm a human being with a brain created in God's image. Don't I think he'll provide for me? Why am I worrying about tomorrow when tomorrow hasn't even come? So work and the things around work has brought me to my knees where I humbled myself and I'm like, God, help me to find blessings in today. So I've been playing this game, testing God a little bit. How can I find a blessing in today? No matter what happens, no matter what goes on in the beginning of my day, how can I find a blessing in today? I've walked into stores and I've been stressed out. I've left the store and then I walked back in and I said, I need help. And someone in the store said, you know what, Garrett? I know somebody who walked in here a couple of weeks ago saying, do you know someone who needs help? And they've connected us. And I have hired that individual and they've been helping us. Humbling myself to just say I need help to my fellow man as well as to God, and he's providing. So every single day, no matter what happens in my day, no matter how bad my day begins, I'm like, God, I'm watching, I'm paying attention, I'm gonna look for the blessing. And he has been providing every single day since. Now he's been providing in the past. And I'm sure he wasn't happy with me because he says he doesn't like to be ignored. So I challenge you today to play this game with me, with God. And no matter what's going on, I want you to play hide and seek and find a blessing in today. He doesn't like to be ignored. Fellow Toastmasters.
Mark Ehlers considers himself a minority lawyer. That's because he's one of only a handful of lawyers with the same unusual fetish. They all like lawyer jokes. This morning, Mark shares some of his favorite lawyer jokes as he presents project number 2 from the presentation mastery path on Pathways. The purpose of this project is to present a speech and then use feedback to present an improved version at a later time. The speech is entitled Pitbull. Please help welcome distinguished Toastmaster Mark Ehlers.
Fellow Toastmasters, and yes, what's the difference between a lawyer and a catfish? One's a bottom-feeding scavenger, and the other one's a fish. When I first heard that joke, I was a young associate at a small law firm. I guess I was a little naive back then, but I actually thought the joke was kind of funny. So I tried it out the next day at the office on a couple of lawyers and clients. To my surprise, I didn't get one laugh. Not even a giggle or whimper. I was so baffled by the stoic response to my joke that I sought an explanation from the person at the firm with the quickest wit and keenest sense of humor, the senior partner, Tom Kerrigan. After hearing my story and joke, he said, "There's no problem with your joke. The problem is your audience, lawyers and clients." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, look, when it comes to lawyer jokes, most lawyers don't think they're funny. And most clients don't think they're jokes." So from that day forward, I quit telling lawyer jokes to lawyers and clients. And in the same way, I never once heard a lawyer or client utter a lawyer joke. That is, until Barney showed up at our office with a real estate problem. After introducing himself, Barney's first question was, "How many lawyers does it take to screw in a light bulb?" I said, "I don't know, Barney. How many?" He said, 3. One to climb the ladder, one to shape it, and one to sue the ladder company. Well, I was so surprised to hear a client telling a lawyer joke that I asked Barney. I said, "Well, how long have you been telling lawyer jokes?" He said, "Well, ever since I closed my law practice and became a real estate investor." Well, Barney's problem that first day required the expertise of my law partner, John Bennett. So I asked John to join us in the conference room. Well, Barney wasted little time. He got right to the point. He said, John, how many lawyers does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, John thought about it for a moment, and then he said, well, Barney, that depends. How many can you afford? Well, after representing Barney for a while, I realized he was not only an excellent real estate investor, but he was also one of the best lawyers I had ever encountered. So one day when we're having lunch, I asked him, I said, Barney, with all your considerable skills as a lawyer, why not just do the legal work yourself and avoid all of our billable hours? Well, Barney got a big grin on his face and said, are you kidding? I haven't worked for a measly $300 an hour since I closed my law practice. Well, after I got back to the office, I asked our office manager to change the rate on all of Barney's from $300 to $350 per hour. I didn't want Barney to be stuck being represented by a lawyer who only charged me $300 an hour. Well, it's been nearly 10 years now since we began representing Barney. During that time, there have been more than a few contentious moments with opposing parties and their lawyers as we work through numerous real estate transactions. During those contentious times, I'm always amazed at Barney's ability to unleash one of his many lawyer jokes to ease the tension and usually solve the problem. Well, that's exactly what happened recently. When Barney was negotiating to purchase a prime parcel of real estate from Ben, a local citrus grower. Well, Ben was represented by one of the big firms in town, and the firm assigned Edie, a talented young lawyer, to assist in the negotiation conference. Although diminutive in height, Edie had an ego the size of the Empire State Building. And she put it to good use by needlessly nitpicking every minor contract issue. I was quickly growing tired of Edie's antics. But Barney seemed amused. In fact, he pulled out the joke notebook that he usually carried, and he began paging through it. When he found the joke he wanted, he handed the notebook to me to take a look. I read the joke and immediately began shaking my head no. But Barney couldn't resist. He interrupted Edie in mid-sentence and shared the following question and one-word answer that so infuriated Edie that our meeting abruptly ended. But it so amused Edie's client that he ended up signing our proposed contract later the same day. Edie, what's the difference between a female lawyer and a pit bull? Lipstick.
Let's welcome Toastmaster Carlos Benitez, a 4-year Winter Park Toastmasters veteran to the lectern. Carlos is completing his leadership pathways track. Carlos will enlighten us with a glance at some of his personal experiences, challenges, and stories with his talk called Work in Progress. Let's welcome Carlos.
I just celebrated my 62nd birthday this past July 19th. And it's not too late to get me a gift. My favorite color is brown. Celebrating gets me nostalgic and thinking about my past. It's also a measuring point in my continuum of life to see if I've realized my goals or if I've fallen short. I have little use for my past, except to use its lessons to propel me forward. It is because of my past that I am who I am. To me, the best lessons in life come from the most difficult and the hardest moments I've ever experienced. And I continue to strive forward to get rid of all those bad habits and customary ways that no longer work for me or are valid. I'm a work in progress. My goal in life is to become the best version of myself. I'm a saint in the making, a none such. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, let me introduce to you Carlos Benitez, a work in progress, a saint in the making. I'm the first to admit I don't have it all together, but I know that together I can have it all. In my experience, personal development is all about positive spheres of influences and seeking out mentorship opportunities. My mom used to say, "Dime con quien anda y te diré quién eres." Tell me who you're walking with and I'll tell you who you are. In other words, the cliche, birds of a feather flock together. Interpersonally connecting with others can be good and it can be bad. So let me tell you a little bit about my formative years. When I was younger, I encountered a lot of racism in the Bronx. We moved out to Long Island and it was the worst of the worst. It forced me to join a clique to protect myself. I had a lot of homies that I thought had my back. In junior high school was no picnic. And by the time I reached the 10th grade, most of my friends had either dropped out, they were expelled, pregnant, in jail, or dead. So thank God to my older sister and brother, who were my positive influences, and other adult mentors who believed in me and gave me a second chance and knew that I had potential. My guidance counselor, Mr. Rodriguez, he pushed me and enrolled me in a program called Project Upward Bound. It's an academic college prep course, and hooked me up with the Youth Opportunity Work Experience program. Suddenly, I was in a whole new world. I did an about face in around 11th and 12th grade. I was just a new person. And together with the college credits that I got from the Upward Bound program, I enrolled into the University of Buffalo, moved out from Long Island, and the rest is history. I'm a work in progress. My experiences are signposts pointing the way, guiding me, warning me, and informing me on my leadership path. Over the last years, I've noticed that there are a lot of obstacles, though, that kept me from reaching my maximum potential. Fear, standing in front of the podium to deliver a speech. What will they think of me? Pride, don't they know who I am? Laziness, it's too much work. The foundations of my leadership and conscience were indeed formed in my early formative years. And I continue to have an insatiable appetite and a need to become a better version of myself. I'm a life learner. I'm a work in progress. I'm committed to pushing forward. Sometimes as I get older, I feel like I've missed out on opportunities and blessings, the way Garen was explaining. I've overlooked all those aforementioned reasons: fear, pride, laziness. So that reminds me of a story. A man dies and goes to heaven. And so St. Peter meets him at the pearly gates. And before he goes to meet Jesus, he takes him on a tour of heaven. And he goes by these streets of crystal and gold and beautiful fields and houses. And he takes a look on the hills, a beautiful mansion. And St. Peter says, "Let's go." He says, "Well, what about that beautiful mansion?" He says, "That's not on the tour." He says, "Well, now I'm curious, can we go there?" So he says, "Okay, let's go." So he gets inside to this beautiful mansion. And inside it has file cabinets. And he says, "Open that one up, it has your name." And inside it had all these 3x5 index cards, 10,000 of them in his name. He says, "What are these?" He says, "Those are all of the blessings and opportunities that God sent to you while you were on earth that you didn't take advantage of. You didn't open them up. I'm a work in progress, looking for God's blessings and a cosmic rebirth. After retirement, I enrolled after retirement from UPS, I enrolled in grad school, got my master's in organizational leadership. I just recently graduated from the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce Leadership 31. I just also was voted recently to my parish council. And did I tell you that the last 4 years I've been the program manager for the St. Peter Claver Prison Ministry. Oh, and by the way, this September, we're going to be expanding to our 3rd prison in Central Florida, the Florida Women's Reception Center in Ocala. Yes. I believe God has a plan for me, and I've accepted his calling. He speaks to me in silence when I ponder, contemplate, and hear and pray for his guidance. He sends me signs, he sends me blessings, he sends me opportunities that keep me on the right path. Every day I strive and struggle to love him and others, the destitute, the downcast, the homeless, in prison, even Carmelo. I'm a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. To conclude, nowhere have I mentioned that success, and a lot of people's definition of success is fame and fortune. But I love the definition of the none such, John Wooden. Success is peace of mind. It's a direct result in self-satisfaction of knowing that you did your best to become the best you're capable of becoming. Fellow Toastmasters, thank you.
All right, everybody, those were 4 wonderful speeches. Make sure you're filling out the feedback forms. Our speakers would love to hear your kind words. Now we'll move on to the evaluation portion of the meeting. Oh, sorry. Timer, does everybody qualify?
Yes.
All right, cool. Everybody make sure you vote for 2 speakers today. Now we'll move over to the evaluation portion of our meeting. This Toastmaster has just agreed to one of the most difficult challenges, coaching little kids football. He hopes that keeping your attention will be easier than keeping the attention of a bunch of 12-year-olds. Please help welcome to the lectern Toastmaster Ben Hughes as your master evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Steve Joseph. We had a bunch of good speeches today, 4 to be exact. All of them were great. Probably the best that I've heard in this room at one time. Now, I would like to introduce our evaluators of today. The first evaluator is DTM Jordan Cannonkirk, and he'll be evaluating Ty Patton.
Aristotle's rhetoric teaches us that we access the audience 3 ways: with logos, logic; ethos, the reputation of the speaker; and pathos, emotion. I think we managed mostly on the 3rd rail with this speech. Ty succeeded on so many levels. It was a powerful speech. And of course, none such as Ty could present with that patented panache. The intro grabbed us with a powerful question. Have you ever really seriously hurt someone? And then he heightened our engagement by getting us to raise our hand, modeling how to do it. He started off with alliteration. I don't know if it was intentional, but it was great. A misunderstanding of monumental magnitude. His eye contact as he was in front of the lectern canvassed the whole room. He didn't just default to the right or default to the left. He had gestures, and remember when he talked about the sign and it was 4 feet high? His humor, Kmart, he worked for, but he had nothing to do with its demise. We'll judge that side. And he used the power of specifics. His daughter's name he gave us, Tara.
And he talked about Charles Chips. And he used the power of the pause. She thought I did not love her, and I did not want her. Pause. To punctuate that important point. And tonality. After that, he said, I was crushed. Lowered his voice and softened his tone. And he ended the message with a call that we should tell them we love them now and put our arms around them. 3 things we might try, Ty. Number 1, use the introduction to elicit valuable feedback from the audience. Tell them what the assignment's about. This is a speech that delivers a personal message in a way that connects with your audience. Tell Ty whether he succeeded in that way. Next, Mark Twain said the difference between the right word and the almost right word is like the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. Faux pas is a minor error. This was a grievous one. And thirdly, you were great with gestures, just avoid the fig leaf. Mr. Toastmaster.
Now, evaluating Garen Sprague's speech, we have Toastmaster Alex McGriff.
Page 24.
Toastmaster Garen Sprague. When I asked Garen, what do you want me to look for in your speech? He told me pacing, articulation, and connection to the audience. Well, first I want to start off by saying there were so many good things you had in this speech that I can barely keep up, okay? Your speech was based on fear and anxiety. Now, one thing I do like just loved about your speech, because anything dealing with fear and anxiety, a lot of people kind of really emphasize the anxiety by stating, hey, they had anxiety, or just including the words actually in the speech. They kind of force the action upon us, but you did that with personal stories and your experiences, which I love. Very good context in your speech, very good gestures. You did this thing with your hand for whatever reason. Like, I love that. So you hit all the points on the articulation and connecting with the audience, because when you included God in your speech, like God doesn't like to be ignored, or I played this game with God and everybody laughed, and it instantly grabbed the audience. And also including Toastmasters in your speech, that's the automatic connection to the audience. One thing I would love for you to work on and would have made this speech a lot more powerful is you have to pause. You have to pause. Such as, in the beginning, you start off with a thump. I'll recommend coming up here and pausing first, because after the first speaker exits, everybody's still kind of vigilant. So pause first, then thump, and then pause with that a little bit. Not too long, but just enough. Also, at the time of your speech, you were saying, I guess someone hung themselves, like everyone was wondering why. Anytime you emphasize a death, you want to pause with that. Let us sit in it. Let us marinate. But other than that, good speech. I learned so much from you when you speak, and look forward to your next one.
Thank you.
Now, evaluating our lawyer in the room, we have evaluator number 3, Toastmaster James Riggs. My fellow Toastmasters, and in particular, the good Mr. Ailes. I appreciate our communication before this speech, because it helped me understand exactly what you were looking for. My friend, I will tell you, your none such delivery of this speech titled Pitbull set a very high bar. One of the things Mr. Ehlers was concerned with was his presentation in front of a lectern. He wanted to be sure he didn't move around needlessly and take away from the impact his story held. Sir, I tell you had no issue with that today. You did an excellent job. Your movement was certainly on pace with the tempo of your story. What I loved the most
was your use of props. When you brought out that small bifold with the notes and you supposedly were going through all the lawyer jokes that were there, I went through quite a few I had in my mind as well. They weren't quite as nice as yours, but they were still good. I also love the way that you made eye contact with every single person in this room. You certainly wanted to bring them into your story and you wanted to make them laugh. You did. So the purpose of this speech in this project, which happens to be the same one that I'm working through, is to find ways you can improve so that if you give the same speech again, it can be a little bit better. I want to echo some of the sentiments from an earlier evaluator about pausing. Wonderful jokes. If you were to take just a moment to pause before you have that delivery, I think it would be just that much funnier. So aside from that, I appreciate the opportunity to serve as your evaluator. I think that I have learned more than you will learn from me, but I do thank you for the opportunity.
And lastly, evaluating our speaker number 4, Carlos Benitez, we have evaluator number 4, Toastmaster Lillian Kettle.
Good morning, Winter Park Toastmasters.
Good morning.
We always love to hear Carlos speak. He gave us the inspirational speech. The content of the speech is excellent. The organization of the speech is wonderful. He used the aids very well. That's the wonderful example for you learning how to use the aids when you speak. That's how you learn from him. He also used his personal story, how he grew up in culture with races, how he grew up, others helped him, and God guided his steps in his life, step by step, until today. God still blessing to him. What a wonderful message. What is successful? What are we looking for in our life? He carried all the message in his speeches. Make you have a deep thinking. That's a wonderful speech content and the information and the message he delivered to us. Always look for the God blessing. What is successful? That's a wonderful conclusion. Successful for some person is fame and money. However, successful is peace of mind. Every person have a different definition of the success in their life. What's successful? God's always provide for you. Thank you.
All right. Timer, did everybody qualify?
Yes, sir.
Now I'd like to give a round of applause to our timer of the day, JQ. He came in today. Now, for the tabulators,
Let's vote for best evaluator.
you got it. If you would all please face the wall. No peeking.
You know the attorney
All right.
joke on the right.
Raise your hand if you think evaluator number 1 is the best evaluator.
You can pat and vote for him.
Okay, you may put your hands down. Raise your hand if you think evaluator number 2 had the best evaluation. raise your hand if you think evaluator number 3 had the best evaluation. Okay. Now, lastly, raise your hand for evaluator number 4 if you believe they had the best evaluation. All right, you may put your hands down. The best evaluator will remain standing is Jordan DTM Hamster.
Was that a bribe? Was that a bribe?
Now, I will take the odd tabulator's report.
There we go.
Thank you very much. I believe it was a light day comparatively. Emmy had 5 odds and ends, 1 double clutch, and 1 and so. Ty Patton, possibly 3 and so's. I'm new to this, so I'm trying to be, try not to be too hard. Darren, 1 and so. Blake had 1 and so at the beginning. Bonnie had 1 and so. Linda had 1 double clutch. Chantel had 3 and so. Tim Ricky had 1 and so. James Riggs had 2 double clutches. Carlos had 2 double clutches. And Alex McGriff had 2 ahs and ums and 2 double clutches.
We start with table topics. Alex, 49 seconds. Bonnie, 1 minute. Linda, 43 seconds. Chantel, 1 minute and 4 seconds. Tim, 1 minute and 10 seconds. Diane, 1 minute, 10 seconds. Dan, 46 seconds. John, 1 minute. Tim, 44 seconds. Sorry, I missed the last. Natalie, Casey, 1 minute, 12 seconds. And myself, 55 seconds. For the speeches, the first one, Ty, you have 6 minutes, 54 seconds. Darren, you're a non-set. You have the longest time at 7 minutes and 22 seconds. So we put you on the spot. Cool. Mark, you have 6 minutes and 33 seconds. Carlos, 7 minutes and 17 seconds. For the evaluators, Jordan, you have 2 minutes, 25 seconds. Alex, 22 minutes, 2 minutes, 52 seconds. James, 1 minute and 50 seconds. Then the end, 2 minutes, 3 seconds.
Did anybody hear the word of the day here today?
Not such.
Would all 4 of you raise your hands? We had a table topics master have the word. I had the word. Carlos had the word. JQ had the word. And Alex had the word. The rest of you, make a banquet and you had the word. If I missed you, sorry.
25 cents.
Bring up some cash. Thank you.
There you go.
Now I'll introduce our grammarian's report done by DTM Carmelo Bellardo.
Interesting how you stand there, well, I do at least, I still get nervous. Okay, that's a grammarian's role, so I'm going to get into some grammar. Sometimes people come up and they just give back the one-liners that was given to them, but grammarians, that's the thing. First thing, speech entitled. In introductions, entitled means believing oneself to be inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. The correct way to term that in an introduction is with his or her speech title.
There you go.
Not any title.
Get him, baby.
None such. Alex Cardenas, Batman all day. Not Robin? Really? Superman can fly. Isn't flying like the ultimate? Bonnie Patterson was traumatized by snakes as a child. and at seeing their heads get cut off. I have some birthday ideas. Gifts for her next birthday. Linda Miller wants to be a bird and not get swallowed by water. It's an interesting visual. Chantal Delabona was stumped in table topics. Welcome back, Chantal. More grammar, Tim Taylor. He said, I gotta do that. I have to do that. Or I've got to do that. Diane Douglas fell in love 40 years ago. And I didn't hear anything after that. So I really wish the Love Boat was still around for you guys. She also said he called her back 40 years later and he was beautiful with blue eyes and brown hair.
Easy, Tiger.
Dan Wallace. Ready, fire, aim. Dan, we know all too well you're ready, fire, aim. And sometimes that doesn't work out very well, does it, Dan? Nooch, if he eats fast, he throws up. That's good to know. Don't sit across from him. Tim Rickey, Vietnam is a beautiful city. Well, grammar. Vietnam is a country. He did correct himself, so I'll give you credit for that, but it's good material for the grammarian.
Aye.
Natalie Casey had to ponder what she didn't dare tell her mom and dad. Goody two-shoe. She also said and so 3 times, so that's 30 cents for you. That's more grammar. And so's a tricky one. A lot of people use it. I use it sometimes. What's the proper way to use and so? It's way too much for me to get into in a grammarian's report, but you might want to consider that. Toastmaster Amy Robertson, let's wrap it up during table topics. She said that 4 times. Once was at 7:45. Table topics goes to 7:58, so you always want to have at least 15 topics. And if you run out of topics, just recycle the first one. JQ wants to stand on top of the world. That's a nice thought, JQ. And you can turn that light off because it's 10-2. We have plenty of time. Steve Joseph, gavel tapping. Stand up, Steve. Look at the size of this guy. Please. Confidence. Ty Pat, none of us is promised tomorrow. Sage wisdom. Garen Sproul. Fear, disappointment, Monday blues, what people think about us. Worry. Were you speaking directly to me? Dale Carnegie wrote, 95% of the things we worry about never happen. So you can, right off the bat, stop worrying. Worry 95% less. The Bible's a good source for
I could have gone
inspiration too. God doesn't like to be ignored. Speakers, when you're speaking during table topics and you're up here, remember there's people behind you. Also, when you're speaking at the lectern, Steve Joseph, speak audibly so people in the back can hear you. Jordan Kamaker, no grammatical faux pas, but we love the Andy Warhol spectacles. Alex, more grammar. He said, cuz.
Yeah.
We did that cuz. Yeah. I used to say that when I was a kid in the street, but it's because, Alex, because. The other thing I want to kind of end with. See that? I just did it. The word like. This is something I get on my kids all the time because he was like, I was like, she was like, they were like, we were like. Please consider that. He said, she shared, I felt. Use those adjectives because like is just a cop-out, in my opinion. Finally, last thing, I promise. Carlos Benitez celebrated his 62nd birthday. Carlos, happy birthday. Carlos also shared his gratitude for the ones in his life who influenced him positively, especially God. He is a work in progress. And Carlos, Aren't we all? Thank you very much, fellas.
Today we learned about love, leadership, blessings, and lawyers. I'm going to return control to the lectern with Toastmaster Steve Joseph.
All right, my friends, it's time to hand out more hardware.
There you go.
Let's get that drum roll going. Runner-up for the table topics today is Toastmaster Tim Taylor. All right, the winner for table topics, none other than such, Toastmaster Bonnie Patterson.
I don't like spiders or snakes, and that ain't what snakes doesn't do.
All right, no deal. Runner-up for best speaker today is ATM Ty Patton. And the winner of this bad boy, ATM Mark Ehlers.
Yeah!
Good job.
None such.
There you go.
All right, and with that, I would like to return control of the lectern to our president, ETM Blake Smith.
All right, thank you. Hey!
Hey!
Told you it was gonna be fun. Twas fun indeed. Is it possible to have 4 nonsuches in a meeting? But those speakers were great, outstanding. I'm so proud of you. There was a little bit of confusion at the lights. So for those of you that haven't been back there, or you get a first time, there is a maximum, which is why we let him continue saying that, Carlos. It's true that the maximum on table topics is 2.5. I mean, evaluations is 2.5, but you get the red light at 2. You get the red light at 1 minute on table topics. You get the red light at 7 minutes. The maximum, or your disqualification, is 30 seconds beyond that red light coming on. Either way, he's never done it before. JQ, thanks for stepping in. We have a late arriving guest, Allison Richards, a guest of Tim Taylor. She doesn't trust us. It looks like she gave Tim Taylor's business address for her address. That's smart. I wish I'd done that. They tracked me down so long ago, now it's no fun.
Her office is 2 doors from mine.
Oh, okay. So I was right. Okay. Sad news. If you've seen my emails or you've been on Facebook, you know Carson has COVID. His whole family's got COVID. Wow. Yeah. He told me yesterday that he had lost all sense of smell and he lost taste. I told him he never had any taste. Yeah. But what that does mean is the memorial concert for Andy Brown has been postponed. The one that was going to be on August the 8th. They felt that the way things are going in Central Florida right now, or in Florida in general, they didn't want it to become a super spreader event, so they thought it would be a little bit smart to just go ahead and postpone it for now. So that's what they're doing. Dan Wallace sent out a new schedule, but we don't know if there's a glitch in the email. Did anyone get it?
I sent it to you and Carmelo.
Okay, so I mean, I did, well, yeah, you said this morning, but I mean, it went out 2 days ago.
I got it.
You did get it, okay, so double check, see if you're on the schedule next week.
I'll resend it, just.
Yeah, that's cool. Yes, Tim?
And Dan, did you post it on the site?
No.
Yeah, post it there, because I'm more sure of it.
Please, please.
Please.
There you, all right. Dan is very sensitive, especially after he's done Sling Blade. So, and speaking of Dan Wallace, excuse me, are there any other Toastmaster-related comments or announcements? I'd like to close with our thought for the day with Toastmaster Danny Day Wallace.
Thank you, thank you. I have a disclosure. The creation of the thought of the day in no way included the use of nunchucks. So, if you can live without caffeine, complaining, criticism, liquor, discussing politics, then you've almost attained the emotional maturity of your dog.
Okay.
That's it, I guess. If you want more, he'll be at the Sac Comedy Club.
No. I'm good. Talk to me someone.
Got the fun and fun. But we ended on time.
You gotta really listen to him too.
And it didn't make us think too much. We have no idea what to say.
I'm gonna kill Mark, I get half of it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Better Man event we're going. It's called Better Man event. Yeah, that's it. They have it every year. It's faith-centered. The keynote speaker is Denzel Washington. You have people that come in and then they just talk about the heart of faith and how they walk through life. Kind of relevant to what they say. Yeah, if you're interested. Nicely done.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I know.
I think I joined in 2000.
I'm sorry. I mean, that I talk about.
I enjoyed it. I stayed tuned.
Would you like to meet someone that's actually milked a rattlesnake?
No. Oh, I read it already. I can't.
Yeah, you have. Now you know.
I'm so proud of you.
Yes, sir. No, I'm not afraid of snakes. Very quiet.
They just hang out.
But sometimes they're
Wonderful speech.
Thank you, my lady.
You always deliver well.
This
Very
one was a small
inspirational.
corn snake.
That's me. That's me.
Yes, that's right.
And my wife actually took pictures, sent it to the grandkids. Little snakes like that have got a defense mechanism that's really cool. They shake their little tails. Normally they do it in the leaves. So, it's surprise as they're shaking in the dry leaves. You think they're a rattlesnake. Yeah, it's really cool. So, I had him, I was holding him, he's wrapped around my fingers, and his little tail's just going away. Rat snakes are gorgeous. Red rat snakes, beautiful.
See, like kind of calm down my breathing, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better.
Thank you. See you, Tim. Thank you for stepping on. Of course. That's our job. Oh, but then I let him go in the bushes. Then I let him go in the bushes. Yeah.